How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another video. We got a new Avengers Doomsday update. There's probably gonna be spoilers or leaks. If you don't want to see this, skip ahead.
Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Eric Voss, and we just got a big confirmation about Avengers Doomsday pertaining to Mr. Fantastic Reed Richards' role as the leader of the Avengers, as well as some crazy.
Yeah, I know you guys probably seen my haircut. Yes, I know it's really bad. I literally asked for half an inch off, and it cut too. So I have really bad short hair right now, but I'm trying to make it work. We'll go back to 2 weeks.
I'm going to break down all the
make sure you like to subscribe if you haven't already. But like I said, there might be leaks. So if you don't want to see them, skip the head out of here, brother. Come on.
Which is really the best way.
W shirt. If you want to go see it, check out yourself.
Of casting Reed Richards. Matt Shackman
the
said
challenges.
He goes from being the nerdy scientist who's locked away in the lab to the husband and the father who'd do anything to protect his family to the guy who's leading the Avengers. I realized that the version we're building had to have all of those elements. The guy
Thor, you hear that?
leading the Avengers.
Sam Wilson, you hear that? Bucky, you hear that?
From what we can tell, there are two factions of Avengers in the MCU at the moment. The Avengers led by Sam Wilson, a team that will include Joaquin Torres, Shang-Chi, Thor, and probably others. And then the new Avengers, organized by Val in the events of the Thunderbolts film. Yelena
If you haven't seen that movie already, go check it out, dude.
John Walker, Ava Starr, and Bob. The Thunderbolts post-credit scene, which we now know was shot by the Russo brothers,
I also like John Walker's new
Avengers
outfit.
Doomsday, making it a Doomsday scene. In effect, suggests that the two Avengers teams are in a legal dispute when Sam Wilson
that makes sense.
Who are the real Avengers?
Well, that's the question the internet has been asking.
Who is it?
Very nasty memes that I've read. They don't think that it's us.
It's Fantastic Four.
It went poorly.
You know he's filed for copyright of the name?
I bet you Fantastic Four starting coming.
This scene also mentions a space crisis
and
that this group doesn't know anything about. And of course, ends with one of the Fantastic Four's ships entering the atmosphere of this universe.
Satellite image
I wonder how they're going to explain Kang, though.
ship entering atmosphere.
Extra dimensional, what does that mean?
Wow, cool ship.
Oh! Dude, I was freaking out in the theater when I noticed right away from the ship. I was like, oh my god.
This ship is not the Excelsior, the main spaceship of the Fantastic Four that we see throughout First Steps. The Excelsior has 3 fins. This ship has 4. But it is the ship of the Fantastic Four from their universe of Universe 828, arriving now.
But I also wonder how the X-Men and X-Men are going to come in.
Comments, I think we can assume that when the warring factions of the Avengers heal their divides, probably as a result of the threat that Dr. Doom brings, Reed Richards will be the outsider that they can agree upon to lead them. We are actually learning in the Fantastic Four First Steps film that an understated superpower of the Four, specifically of Sue Storm, is the ability to use empathy to forge unlikely alliances. In the official prelude comic that documents their backstory in the years before the film opens, we learn that Sue brokered a peace with Harvey Elder,
I don't really
aka
know.
Mole Man, that we finally
Like,
just
all I
got
know is,
a photo of Paul Walter Hauser playing, as well as Mole Man's Moloids and deviant mutates who all live in Subterranea. By just having compassion and listening long enough to realize that Harvey worked with Sue's grandfather, Dr. John Franklin Storm, at Empire State University's
Steen replaced this dude. I know him. I saw that. I saw on-set photo or something.
The future foundation into the global demilitarization and peacekeeping force that it is. So if anything, I'm kind of thinking it should be Sue Storm leading the Avengers, not Reed. But you know, sometimes it takes a good leader to recognize when a bunch of brats on two sides of a conflict need someone like your spouse to call the shots instead of you to just kind of step aside and let that happen.
I'm so excited for this movie next week.
Bad happens to Sue during the events of Doomsday, and the task of leadership falls upon Reed. We know that some faction of the Fantastic Four will mix it up with different groupings of Avengers. This set photo has been going around, taken and posted by someone who works on the set of the film. And since it wasn't taken by like a paparazzi drone,
dude, it's about to be so weird. We're gonna have Fantastic Four, X-Men, and Avengers
the set who wasn't supposed to be there. We are okay to show it. We see in this photo Danny Ramirez as Joaquin Torres in his Falcon suit, Eben Moss-Backrack as Ben Grimm the Thing and his fractal motion capture suit, and Wyatt Russell as John Walker in his new Avengers suit with a beret peering over the controls. We also think that might be the foot of Letitia Wright suited up as Shuri, Black Panther, over on the far right. I kind of feel like John Walker looking at these controls might be calling back what he says in the Thunderbolts post-credit scene.
I don't know what any of these buttons do. It's unbelievable they didn't mark any of them.
This set looks like they are on the bridge of a new ship used by the Avengers and or the Fantastic Four of this film. Maybe actually this could be one of Reed Richards' life rafts. The vessels that Reed builds and uses to try to save people from the incursion rifts in the comics that lead up to Jonathan Hickman's 2015 Secret Wars event. For this grouping to include one Avenger from Sam Wilson's team, one new Avenger, one member of the Fantastic Four, and
that's so crazy
from whatever side she sides with, we just have to assume that the Fantastic Four and Reed are successful at unifying the Avengers. If you
bet she'll
own a
side
pet,
with,
you're a parent. Dogs
Sam.
are part of the family, and like kids, they
Where's
can't
Peter
take care
gonna-
of themselves without your help. It's
I'm so
rewarding, but
excited.
it can also be stressful. You want to make sure you're providing your dogs the best life possible. Well, if you're worried about providing the best food, dog food say with
Oh, yeah,
a short
if you
list
want
of human
dog
grade
food,
ingredients.
check this
Sundays
out.
is vet formulated and made in the USA with 100% meat, muscle,
Made
organs,
in the
superfoods, and
USA.
zero synthetics
Oh, I
or
should
artificial
miss it.
preservatives. Or use the code NEWROCKSTARS.
Yeah,
you
go
may
check
have
this
also
out if you
seen some
want.
set imagery that was posted by Chris Hemsworth's stunt performer and part of Hemsworth's
This
makeup
is what I
team.
saw.
This is a scene
Look,
being
there's
shot
TVA
for
at the
Avengers
bottom.
Doomsday at Pinewood Studios in London. And this
Doing the
location,
TVA.
which you can tell from the logo on the floor, is the TVA, the Time Variance Authority for
Loki.
Loki and Deadpool and Wolverine, the meta
Oh my God, I didn't even
bureaucracy
think about
that keeps
Deadpool.
all timelines in the multiverse in order. It's no surprise
If we
that the
did
TVA
Deadpool
was going to
and
factor
Wolverine,
into these events in some way. Deadpool and Wolverine left us a huge clue for Doomsday and Secret Wars with this moment.
What is that? Is that me? Is that Thor? Is he crying?
Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Imagine they actually do this.
Why is Thor crying? Quick,
Do not
tell me.
speak to her. Stop that. Eyes on me.
Specifically, this location, this part of the TVA, with the general shape and the seafoam green color of the walls, tells us that we are on the utility floor of the TVA. Not the orange-colored analyst floor, but the floor beneath it, where OB worked. That was explored in Loki Season 2, where the optics
Isn't that
and
where
design
Loki is
desk
now?
and where the
With the
entrance to the
vines?
temporal loom observation deck is. That entrance is actually a very interesting place to be revisiting the Doomsday potentially, because the sign on the threshold warns about exposure to
Radiation
temporal
levels.
radiation, potentially causing spaghettification. You remember spaghettification? It's what we see Victor Timely
Dude,
going
Loki
through
was
several
such a good
times in
show.
Loki Season 2, and ultimately
Probably the best
what
Marvel
happens
show.
to the entire TVA and all of reality when Loki
my
fails
gosh.
to stop the temporal loom from melting down. But spaghettification is actually a real-world thing. It comes from theoretical
Black
physics.
holes,
It's a term for what
right?
happens to objects as they approach black holes and get sucked in. They stretch into a thin
That's crazy.
line. Now, I have
Crazy
not
to
seen
think about.
Fantastic Four First Steps as of this taping, but trailer footage and
I know a lot of
interviews
people
tell us
saw
that
it
that
early.
movie will be dealing with black hole physics. And isn't it interesting that we have someone who can stretch
Stretchy.
and stretch and stretch without being killed? And since both Fantastic Four First Steps and Loki share a production designer and Kazra Farhani, this seems like further evidence that there could be some connection between the retro technology that we saw in Loki
shoot.
and the retro tech that we now see in Fantastic Four First Steps. It's not just the fact that this tech is like vaguely 60s and analog, it's the exact digital typeface of their watches, the spherical computer monitor in Reed's blue area being the same shape of the orange monitors of the TVA. My theory for the past several months has been that the TVA was even constructed using Reed Richards' technology.
Really?
And yes, this Doomsday TVA imagery was shared by people who work on the film, specifically Chris Hemsworth's team. And we know that Hemsworth was shooting these scenes on this day because he was in London this week talking about feeling like the elder
Loki.
Avenger on set.
Loki. We did in the Loki reunion. Thor and Loki reunion.
Cast and a lot of new cast, and I feel like one of the elders now.
So this might be the scene that finally answers the question of why Thor was crying. And if the stuntman was there, it's probably going to
think
be an
so?
action scene. It could be what I'd pitch as a possible first act scene that shows Doctor Doom assaulting the TVA and fighting
that'd be
God
cool.
of Stories Loki. Although if Tom Hiddleston and Robert Downey Jr. are there, would Hemsworth say that he feels like the elder on set? Probably not. But there are probably other scenes that Hemsworth was shooting where he did feel that way. I feel like we're going to know a lot more about the next steps for Doctor Doom after Fantastic Four First Steps comes out in a week. My spoiler-free review of the film will come out on this channel on Tuesday, July 22nd. Our ending explain and post-credit scene video will come out on Thursday, July 24th. And then our massive in-depth Easter egg breakdown
Alright,
of
that
the
is
film
it.
will
Go check out the full link to this video. I'm so excited for this movie. I think it's gonna be amazing. Marvel's back. Like and subscribe, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye bye.